Here's how you should be running paid ads correctly. Now, the right strategy for running paid ads actually starts with your organic content. Now, the best way that I found to do this is to actually separate your organic content from your paid ads. And so here's what I mean by that. First of all, you should always have a lot of organic content that's just value driven, right? So the only thing that this content provides is just a ton of value for your viewers or your listeners or whoever it is. There's no call to action or anything like that. And then you have maybe, let's say, 20% of your content or even 10% of your content that is some sort of like sales pitch or an offer or some sort of call to action. You're trying to get people to do things. Now, you see the problem with that though is that it kind of contaminates your brand a little bit. Some people just do not want to be sold to. It doesn't feel good, right? It feels kind of icky. It's like he's trying to sell me something or she's trying to sell me something, right? So how can we avoid that? If you keep watching this video, you're gonna see how you can create a strategy that allows you to preserve your personal brand and still have that call to action. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Now, when you are creating some sort of content machine or like an Instagram that you're growing or some sort of social media account that's just value driven, right? That's an important thing and it's a very, very valuable asset for you, but not because this is going to convert directly. People are not stupid, okay? Like if they want to buy from you, they know what they need to do in order to buy from you. They're gonna go look for a link in bio. They're gonna look at your website. They're gonna go find where you're selling what you're selling. They know how to do that. And that's the position that you wanna be with these potential clients. You wanna be in that position with prospects because that positions you as the authority on a specific topic. And so you have all this content that you're creating for free, no call to action. You're not getting people to do something or click something or like something or watch something or buy something. You're simply there to provide value. And so that puts you in a very, very different category than most people, because most business owners are just out there like trying to sell something. They're just selling online. And so that causes frustration, that causes them to look not as good as they could. And so it just kind of puts you in a weird position as a business owner. So I would avoid that at all costs. And so how can you avoid that? I would build up this organic thing, right? Let's call it like this pool of content. So you're building this big pool and it's just value. There's no call to actions, nothing like that. And so think about what your core message is. They should all be centered around your core message as an entrepreneur, right? So if your core message is, double your revenue, or if your core message is create a more efficient business, or if your core message is fire everybody and use AI, stick to that core message and make sure that the majority of your content within this pool, right? We're not talking about call to actions. We're just talking about this pool of content. This is centered, let's say 80 to 90% around this core message, because that's what's going to be your biggest value add. That's what you're passionate about. That's what you're teaching people. And so that's going to be the biggest asset for you. The second aspect of it, the 10 to 20% that's left over, see, that percentage is your opportunity to tap into a broader audience. So for example, if you're just talking about business, or you're talking about business growth or AI, and then all of a sudden you start talking about something personal, maybe you like to play an instrument. So you start talking about, hey, when I was playing guitar, I actually learned this, and this, and then this actually kind of relates to my business, right? So that kind of gives you this whole audience of like guitar players. They're just like, oh, interesting. Like this guy's talking about playing guitar. Or maybe you're talking about like, health and wellness. Maybe that's not your typical subject, but you talk about health and wellness. Now you're tapping into a health and wellness market. And now these people are like, what the heck? Like, this is actually really interesting. I want to learn some more about this. The people, like, keep in mind, it might actually give you more views or might give you less views, depending on what that topic is. But if it's a viral topic, it's probably going to give you more views. And a lot of those people are not going to stay. And that's just the reality of it. So don't be discouraged by that. But the right people will stay because they're going to see the rest of your content and they're like, oh, interesting. Like, I actually kind of wanted to learn about business too. And oh, he's showing me how to use AI in my business instead of employees. Wow, I'm going to stay for that. I'm going to subscribe or I'm going to watch his content. And so that kind of taps into a whole new demographic, which is a really interesting way to grow all of this. Because again, your pool of content is 80% just your core message. And then you have like these one-offs of like tapping into a whole new market. You bring people in, they watch your content, they learn, And because you've built up so much rapport with these people, you're basically just teaching them everything for free. Whenever you do have something to sell, it's going to be a much easier lift because you're not really having to convince anybody of anything. Like, you're not having to convince them of your authority or your knowledge or your ability to teach them. They already know that. They've already been taught by you. And so that puts them into a really, really unique category that allows us as, entrepreneurs, as business owners, to tap into that with ads. And so if you run paid ads separately from that, right? Totally separate. You're not selling anything on your organic content. You're just running ads in a separate bubble, right? That actually protects your brand. And it's really interesting because it kind of gives people a different, it feels different. You know what I mean? It's not the same feeling. I'm not like, oh, I'm following Austin's page on Instagram and I'm always getting pitched something. That's not how it feels, because you're just watching the organic content. You're watching my day-to-day life. You're watching the different business content that I have. And then if you get an ad here and there, you're like, oh yeah, actually, that makes sense. I would totally do that. And it feels totally separate. That's the crazy part about this. Psychologically, something about it, people register it as not me selling something. They register it as, oh, it's just an ad that popped up. You know what I mean? But because this guy has taught me so much, because I learned so much from him, I actually want to pay him to do this service for me. I want to pay him to help me grow my company, or I want to pay him to do this. And so it kind of creates an interesting dynamic because it allows you to still build all this rapport, create this big pool of people who are happy with you, who like you, who have learned a lot from you. They've basically taken the first step in this whole process. And then next, in 6 months, if they get an ad about, hey, I'm actually hosting an event, so why don't you guys come to my event? Tickets are $1,000 each, and I'm gonna obviously I'm gonna teach you something at the event, but we're also gonna have the opportunity for you to partner with us or something like that, right? So you have some sort of pitch at the event, or when you're asking them to do something, it comes later on, and because of your previous rapport, it's kind of like asking a close friend to do something. It's really like mimicking that, right? So imagine you're friends with somebody and you're friends with them for a long time, even not a long time, let's say 6 months to a year. You've kind of built up this friendship, and then you ask them for one favor. You're like, hey, would you mind picking me up from the airport or taking me to the airport or something like that? You know what I mean? They don't have to do that. There's really no need for them to do that. They can easily say no, but because they're your friend, because you've built up this rapport with them, a lot of times they're willing to do that. So the same thing happens here. You're basically creating this relationship with people through your organic content with no calls to action. The call to action ruins it, so don't do that. But you're creating this rapport with people, and then you're proposing something on an ad. You're like, hey, actually, I just released a new book. Can you guys buy it, please? And they're like, yeah, of course. Why not? You're my friend. That's how it feels. So it's a totally different dynamic. It has a lot more impact than just trying to run cold ads with no organic content, or just having organic content with calls to action sometimes. I think it's a much better way to do it. And I think this is actually the correct way to run paid ads and make sure that they're converting. So if you guys like this type of content, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and stay tuned for more videos like this.